On the banks of the Nile, more than 4,000 years ago, a secret may have been unlocked. A mastery of natural forces we are only now beginning to comprehend. The enduring narrative speaks of muscle and sweat, of tens of thousands of workers toiling under a punishing sun. But evidence is mounting that the builders of ancient Egypt harnessed something far more powerful: the raw, elemental force of water. It suggests the pyramids were not merely monuments to manpower, but testaments to a lost technology so profound it threatens to rewrite our history book. The official story of colossal ramps and endless human toil begins to fray when confronted with the sheer scale of the task. The limestone blocks, some weighing more than 15 tons, are dwarfed by the monolithic granite beams from Aswan, which tip the scales at over 70 tons. How could such colossal weights have been lifted, transported, and positioned with a precision that rivals modern engineering? The answer, it seems, may not lie on the land, but flow beneath it. Scattered across the sands of Egypt are clues, tantalizing whispers of a civilization that had mastered hydraulics thousands of years before the principles were formally understood. Deep within the Great Pyramid, recent scans using cosmic ray muons have pierced the stone, revealing not just hidden voids, but curious architectural features that defy simple explanation. These are not random chambers. They appear to be channels, conduits that could have once directed the flow of water. Could it be that the pyramid's core was designed not just for symbolic passage, but as a colossal hydraulic machine? A machine where rising and falling water created immense pressure, helping to lift blocks or power mechanisms we have yet to even imagine. The Nile itself provides the grandest clue. Every year, its floodwaters surged across the land, a cycle of life and rebirth. But what if those floods were also the key to this impossible construction? Archaeologists have recently unearthed the remains of ancient canals and harbors at the foot of the Giza Plateau, proving that stones were floated directly to the construction sites. But the theory deepens. Imagine a network of hydraulic locks and channels, ingeniously designed to raise the monolithic blocks ever higher, dramatically reducing the need for impossibly long ramps. The evidence for this paradigm shift is not confined to Giza. Within the foundations of the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, researchers have identified mysterious channels, engineered with an undeniable purpose: the controlled movement of water. What the ancients knew might just change everything. They saw in the river not an obstacle, but an engine. They understood pressures and principles that we believed were centuries from discovery. The stones remain silent, their secrets locked away. But the ghost of the water that placed them there may yet tell their true story. Beneath the veneer of sand and stone, another history of ancient Egypt waits to be told. It is a story not of brute force, but of something far more elegant, far more powerful. Water. We see its echoes in the remains of what appears to be part of an ancient hydraulic system, a network of channels and basins sophisticated enough to power tools or even serve as immense lifting mechanisms. The evidence is carved into the very temples themselves. The precision of the stonework, with cuts so clean they seem almost machined by modern tools, adds a troubling weight to the idea that water pressure could have been harnessed for more than just irrigating the fields along the Nile. But the most tantalizing hint lies buried deep beneath the sands of Giza. In the year 2023, ground-penetrating radar sent silent pulses into the earth, revealing the ghost of a forgotten waterway. a channel that once ran far closer to the pyramids than anyone had previously dared to believe. This stunning discovery aligns with an almost chilling perfection to ancient records, papyri that describe how the Egyptians floated colossal stones as if they were nothing more than rafts on a placid lake. Could this lost channel have been the primary artery, feeding an intricate circulatory system of basins and reservoirs? A system that effectively turned the entire pyramid construction site into a giant, water-powered workshop? Of course, skeptics argue that such theories overstate the evidence. They point, quite reasonably, to the remains of ramps, some straight, others zigzagging up the monuments, as the most plausible explanation for their construction. Yet even here, in this more conventional story, water seeps back into the narrative. Modern experiments have shown that when the desert sand is dampened to just the right degree, a precise, almost magical saturation point, it cuts the force of friction nearly in half. This simple act makes the task of dragging multi-ton blocks of stone dramatically easier. Was this a deliberate and calculated technique? It suggests the Egyptians may have used water not only to transport their materials across the plateau, but to manipulate the very physics of friction itself. A simple, devastatingly elegant solution, hidden in plain sight for millennia. And then there are the mysteries that defy easy explanation. Deep in the bedrock at Abydos lies the Osireion, a subterranean temple of staggering scale. Here, its massive granite pillars bear the unmistakable watermarks of a long exposure to rising and falling water levels. But this sacred site is miles from the Nile. Could it have been deliberately flooded as part of some forgotten hydraulic ritual? Or perhaps a grand experiment in controlling subterranean water pressure? Some researchers even speculate the Osireion was designed as a symbolic architectural model of the underworld, the primordial waters of creation, but with profoundly practical engineering woven into its very stones. What makes this entire narrative so compelling is how it connects Pharaonic Egypt to the great engineering technology, building aqueducts, baths, and complex irrigation systems that defined their empires. But Egypt predates them all by thousands of years. Could it be that the Egyptians pioneered this powerful science long before it became common knowledge across the ancient world? If so, the great question remains: why does their most advanced use of it vanish so completely from the historical record, leaving only these whispers in stone and sand? The idea becomes harder and harder to dismiss when we consider the almost supernatural precision of their monuments. The Great Pyramid, for instance, is aligned almost perfectly to true north, a feat requiring a genius-level understanding of mathematics and astronomy. Aligning blocks weighing tons with such accuracy seems to demand a technology just as sophisticated. Perhaps the answer has been flowing around us all along, a liquid legacy waiting for us to finally understand its power. To move dozens of tons of solid granite with the precision of a watchmaker, to achieve an accuracy measured in millimeters, this requires something far beyond brute force. It whispers of a forgotten science. Whether that knowledge involved mechanical ramps, intricate counterweights, or the silent, immense power of water-driven hydraulics, the evidence continues to surface from the sand, suggesting the ancient Egyptians knew far more about the fundamental laws of engineering than we have ever dared to imagine. As we step back and view the grand sweep of their achievements, the role of water feels impossible to ignore. The Nile was not merely their lifeline, the source of their agricultural wealth. It may well have been their power source, their continental transport network, and perhaps their most secret tool of construction. One must try to imagine the Great Pyramids not as static, silent tombs, but as humming, fluid-powered machines, where water pressure, channeled through ingenious locks and shot. The truth is, we may never know with certainty how they built their colossal monuments. But with each new discovery, a buried canal, a hidden chamber, a water-scarred block deep within a temple wall, the story of hydraulic technology in ancient Egypt grows more compelling, more tangible. Far from being a civilization frozen in time, they emerge as pioneers, harnessing natural forces in ways that leave us utterly astonished today. The stones of Giza may not have been lifted by muscle and sweat alone. They may have risen with the silent, unstoppable force of water. A technology both ancient and yet still barely understood. But what happens when archaeologists uncover evidence of systems so advanced they seem to defy the very timeline of civilization? Deep within the desert sands of Abydos, approximately 350 miles south of the Giza Plateau, lies a structure that continues to confound all who study it: the Osireion. Officially, it is attributed to Pharaoh Seti I of the 19th dynasty, who reigned around 1290 to 1279 BCE. But this enigmatic monument presents a cascade of architectural, logistical, and hydrological anomalies that point to a far, far older origin, perhaps one that predates the pharaohs entirely. The mysteries of the Osireion don't just challenge our view of a single dynasty, they challenge the conventional timeline of human history, raising profound questions about the capabilities of cultures that may have vanished long before the first hieroglyphs were ever carved. Its design is a radical departure from anything seen in Pharaonic Egypt. Throughout the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms, Egyptian temples, such as the magnificent complex at Karnak, were testaments to an evolving architectural tradition. They were sprawling, additive creations, expanded over centuries, covered in intricate reliefs and sacred texts. But the Osireion is something else entirely. It is built from colossal 100-ton granite monoliths, fitted together with a stark, cyclopean precision. There are no intricate carvings from Seti's time on these primary blocks, no celebratory hieroglyphs. There is only an austere, silent, and overwhelming power that feels profoundly anachronistic, as if it belongs to another world, another age. It sits adjacent to the temple of Seti I, yet it seems to mock it, its megalithic simplicity making the newer structure appear almost fragile by comparison. The most confounding anomaly, however, lies beneath the surface. The Osireion was built at a level that places its floor well below the modern water table, meaning it is perpetually flooded. Why would a New Kingdom pharaoh commission a monument that would be immediately inundated? The most logical, and most unsettling explanation is that it was constructed at a time when the water table was significantly lower, a time perhaps thousands of years before Seti ever walked the earth. He did not build it, he discovered it, and built his own temple beside this ancient, sacred place. The structure forces us to confront a history that may be far deeper and more complex than we know. It asks us to accept that before the Egypt of the pharaohs, there may have been another civilization, one that possessed the means to quarry, transport, and assemble granite blocks of unimaginable size with an engineer's precision. Our established narratives of the past are built upon the artifacts we can see and touch. But what of the histories that were built to be timeless, to outlast the very civilizations that created them? The Osireion stands as a silent, waterlogged testament to that possibility, a relic from a lost chapter of the human story, waiting for us to finally learn how to read its stone. Beneath the shifting sands of Abydos, hidden behind the grandeur of a pharaoh's temple, lies an anomaly. A structure so profound, so utterly alien to its surroundings, that it seems to have been built not just in a different time, but by a different mind. This is the Osireion, a subterranean megalithic enigma that challenges everything we believe we know about ancient Egypt. The story of its modern discovery begins more than a century ago. In the year 1902, the esteemed British archaeologists Sir Flinders Petrie and his colleague Margaret Murray were excavating the grounds behind the magnificent temple of Seti I. They expected to find, perhaps, an annex, a subsidiary structure, something consistent with the New Kingdom architecture that surrounded them. They anticipated decorated walls, inscribed hieroglyphs, an orderly and familiar design. Instead, what they uncovered stunned them to their core. Buried deep within the earth was a temple, built not of the familiar local sandstone, but of colossal, monolithic blocks of rose granite. The established tradition of Egyptian sacred architecture, from the mid-Amenhotep III and Ramesses II, adhered to a predominantly linear and rectangular layout. They were designed to guide the faithful along a central axis, through towering pylons, past forests of columns in hypostyle halls, and into the sacred intimacy of the sanctuary. But the Osireion obeyed none of these rules. It possesses a unique L-shaped configuration, a feature found in no other known temple from the entire dynastic period. This fundamental difference in design is not a mere stylistic choice. It is a declaration of a completely different purpose. It raises critical, unsettling questions about the cultural and religious context in which it was built. Was this place designed for a set of rituals entirely unknown to us? Perhaps connected to a belief system distinct from the well-documented Egyptian pantheon? The mystery only deepens when one considers the materials. The construction employs gargantuan blocks of granite, some weighing an estimated 100 tons. These stones were hewn from the bedrock of Aswan, a quarry located over 200 miles to the south. While the ancient Egyptians were undeniably master engineers, the builders of the Giza pyramids in the Old Kingdom's 4th dynasty primarily used limestone, a much softer and more forgiving material quarried nearby. They used granite sparingly, but the granite work is unprecedented, almost unbelievable for its supposed era. The transportation and precise placement of such massive blocks, far from the main artery of the Nile, presents a formidable logistical challenge that strains the limits of accepted historical capabilities. It forces us to ask a radical question. What if the Osireion was never a temple or a tomb in the conventional sense? Recent research has pushed the boundaries of inquiry, suggesting it may have been part of a lost ancient machine, a functional device whose true purpose has remained a silent mystery for millennia. It is a structure that feels out of place, almost out of time, whispering of a forgotten science carved into the very bones of the earth. Perhaps the greatest secrets are not those written in papyrus, but those left unspoken in stone. The Osireion does not offer easy answers. It offers only the profound, humbling realization that the story of our past may be far grander and infinitely more mysterious than we have ever dared to imagine. Behind the alabaster brilliance of Seti I's temple at Abydos, a monument to a golden age, lies another structure, a place that does not belong. To reach it, one must descend, leaving the sun-scorched world of intricate reliefs and painted gods behind, stepping down into a cool, subterranean twilight. Here, the laws of pharaonic architecture simply cease to apply. What confronts the eye is not the delicate sandstone of the New Kingdom, but a fortress of massive red granite blocks. Each megalith weighs up to 100 tons, hewn and fitted together with a precision that defies the era's known toolkits. It is a cyclopean style, brutal and monolithic, more reminiscent of the core masonry of the Great Pyramid, or even, unsettlingly, the megalithic citadels of ancient South America. But what truly baffled its rediscoverers was its depth. The Osireion, as it came to be known, sits nearly 30 feet below the current ground level, aligned with an almost impossible perfection to ancient water channels long since vanished from the surface. It is perpetually submerged. Groundwater seeps through the colossal stones, pooling on the floor and reflecting the 10 central pillars in its dark, still surface. It feels ancient, and it feels intentional. The water is not an intrusion. It is an integral part of the design. The pioneering archaeologist, Flinders Petrie, noted with astonishment that the lowest courses were not merely built upon the ground, but were carved directly into the natural bedrock itself. This single, profound observation suggested a terrifying possibility: that this structure might predate the glorious temple of Seti by thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of years. And here, the mystery deepens into an unnerving silence. For a temple built in the time of Seti I, around 3,200 years ago, one would expect a library of stone, every surface covered in the sacred script of the gods. Yet the Osireion offers almost no inscriptions. The titanic walls are smooth, bare, and profoundly, unnervingly silent. Why would a pharaoh so renowned for covering his monuments in intricate hieroglyphs leave this one completely unmarked? Was it, as some researchers now suspect, because Seti did not build it at all? Did he merely discover this primeval place, and in a show of reverence, build his own magnificent temple in its shadow? Modern archaeology, armed with technologies the early explorers could scarcely dream of, has begun to revisit this enigma. Ground-penetrating radar and three-dimensional laser scans have peeled back the layers of time, revealing unusual voids and geometric patterns beneath the granite floor. They have found strange channels and cavities that serve no obvious structural purpose. Some researchers now propose a radical theory: that these hidden conduits once held flowing water, a complex hydraulic system that could have been used to generate powerful resonance, or something more. The idea borders on science fiction, yet, when one looks across the whole of Egypt, an undeniable pattern begins to emerge. Many of its most ancient and enigmatic sites show tantalizing evidence of advanced acoustic and hydraulic engineering. At Dendera, deep in the crypts beneath the Temple of Hathor, reliefs depict what some audacious interpreters see as colossal light bulbs, enormous glass shapes connected by braided cables to a power source. At Abu Rawash, another mysterious granite structure sits directly atop an An. And here, in the Osireion, the theory feels almost tangible. The constant, gentle flow of groundwater echoes through its cavernous halls, creating deep, resonant vibrations that you feel in your bones. Recent acoustic testing, conducted by researchers from Cairo University, yielded a stunning result. They found that certain frequencies, when generated within the structure, produce powerful standing waves between the granite pillars, as if the entire complex were designed. Could this have been the true purpose of the Osireion? Not a tomb, not a temple in the way we understand it, but a resonant machine. Some alternative historians believe it may have been a component in a lost planetary energy system, harnessing the subtle frequencies of the Earth through the interplay of sound and water. While mainstream Egyptology understandably dismisses these notions as pseudoscience, the physical evidence continues to puzzle even the most skeptical of experts. A joint survey in the year 2020 by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities and the University of Zurich confirmed further subterranean anomalies, ensuring the mystery will endure. The stones remain, silent and submerged, holding secrets of a past so remote we may no longer possess the language to ask the right questions. In the sun-scorched heart of Abydos, one of ancient Egypt's most sacred sites, lies a monument that defies its own history. Beneath the celebrated temple of Pharaoh Seti I, buried deep within the earth, is a structure of an entirely different character. It is the Osireion, and on its colossal granite blocks, geologists have found signs of profound erosion and wear. Marks that appear to predate Seti's reign not by centuries, but by millennia. The patterns etched into the stone are unmistakable, consistent with long-term water submersion, suggesting that the Osireion was built during an epoch when the climate of Egypt was radically different. A time, perhaps, before the Great Sahara Desert even existed. This single, startling piece of evidence places its construction closer to the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. If this is true, our entire understanding of human civilization must be reevaluated. It would mean that the builders of the Osireion possessed an engineering knowledge that was inexplicably lost long before the rise of dynastic Egypt. One need only look at the construction itself. The sheer precision of its cyclopean joints, some fitted so tightly that a modern razor blade cannot slip between them, supports the staggering idea that whoever built this place had access to tools and techniques that remain completely unknown to us today. This was not the work of primitive people. This was the work of masters. But what could such an ancient, powerful machine have been used for? What was its purpose? Some researchers, pointing to the Osireion's deep and abiding association with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the underworld, suggest it may have been designed as a literal resurrection chamber. The layout itself seems to scream this conclusion. Its central platform, surrounded by a deep moat of water, perfectly mirrors the descriptions of the mythical island tomb of Osiris found in the oldest surviving texts. It was here, the legends say, that the god's body was brought back to life. Others propose a more esoteric function, that it served as a spiritual initiation site, a place where priests, or perhaps a forgotten order of sages, used the powerful interplay of sound, vibration, and water to induce altered states of consciousness. They imagine initiates submerged in the water-filled channels, the massive granite walls resonating with a low, primal hum, transporting them to other realms of perception. Yet the most tantalizing, and perhaps most controversial theory, remains that the Osireion was a functioning piece of technology, a machine that once harnessed natural earth energies, water, stone, and vibration. These three elements appear again and again in the most enigmatic ancient architecture worldwide. From the subterranean temples of Malta, carved from solid limestone, to the impossible megaliths of Peru, so many of these ancient sites share the same mysterious characteristics. Could they have all been part of a forgotten global technology? A lost science, one that seamlessly blended physics with spirituality, engineering with myth? As the sands of Abydos continue to shift, revealing new secrets with every passing year. Researchers are now planning further investigations. They are deploying addict hidden chambers and voids below the Osireion's floor. The early readings are provocative. They suggest that there may be another structure directly beneath it, something possibly older still, waiting in the darkness. The Osireion's mysterious design hints at a lost chapter of human history, a technology buried deep beneath the Egyptians' the vast expanse of the ocean. In the very heart of the Grand Canyon lies a sealed cave, a place the government has allegedly kept hidden from public view for more than a century. What was found inside may be even more ancient and more extraordinary than anyone dares to admit. The Grand Canyon is one of Earth's most breathtaking natural wonders, a testament to the power of time and water. But hidden within its sheer, layered cliffs is a place you were never meant to see. A place that holds a key, perhaps, to the same deep mystery that sleeps at Abydos. Our accepted history is but a single page in a much larger book, and its most astonishing chapters may still be buried, waiting for us to find the courage to read them. In the heart of the American wilderness, there's a wound in the earth, so vast it defies comprehension. And within its labyrinthine walls, a story is entombed. A sealed cave, locked away for over a century. A place deliberately erased from maps and forbidden to all who would seek it. Rumors, persistent as the canyon wind, whisper of ancient artifacts, of strange, indecipherable writings, even of irrefutable evidence of a civilization lost to the annals of time. Yet every attempt to uncover this truth has been met with a wall of silence, buried under layers of official secrecy. What could possibly be so dangerous, so world-altering, that it must remain hidden from humanity forever? The legend ignites in the year 1909 with a shocking article printed in the pages of the Arizona Gazette. It told the tale of an explorer, a man named G.E. Kincaid, who, while drifting on the turbulent currents of the Colorado River, spotted a strange, almost unnatural opening high in the canyon wall. Compelled by an instinct he could not explain, he began the arduous climb. He entered a cavern, and what he claimed to have witnessed inside would stun the world. He spoke of gigantic stopper weapons of an advanced, almost impossible design, and walls etched with markings akin to hieroglyphs. Deeper still, he found chambers containing mummies, each laid to rest in a solemn, hand-carved niche. This was not a cave. It was an underground city, an entire necropolis buried within America's most iconic landscape. The Gazette declared, with breathless excitement, that the esteemed Smithsonian Institution had rushed to investigate. The findings, they promised, could rewrite the very story of civilization. And then, nothing. An absolute, deafening silence fell. No artifacts were ever displayed. No scientific reports were ever published. The Smithsonian, when questioned, flatly denied any involvement, any knowledge of such an expedition. And Kincaid himself, the man at the center of it all, simply vanished from the historical record. One of the most spectacular discoveries ever reported was, overnight, completely and utterly erased. This vanishing act is the very engine that fuels the legend. Was Kincaid's story a sensational hoax, a piece of frontier journalism designed to sell papers? Or was it a truth so profound, so dangerous to the established narrative of history that it had to be suppressed? Skeptics dismiss it as fantasy, a tall tale spun from the canyon's mystique. Yet the persistence of the story, its refusal to die, raises unsettling questions. Because the Grand Canyon is no ordinary wilderness. It is a place of shadows, a maze holding over 1,000 caves hidden within its cliffs. Most remain unexplored, and many are officially sealed off. When hikers dare to wander into these restricted zones, they are turned back swiftly, sometimes forcefully, often without explanation. Why guard empty rock with such vigilance? Indigenous traditions may hold a piece of the answer. The Hopi and the Zuni people speak of their ancestors emerging from great underground worlds. Their most sacred stories describe epic migrations, guided by divine beings from vast caverns deep within the earth. Across the canyon walls, ancient petroglyphs depict mysterious, otherworldly figures with elongated forms and enigmatic headdresses that scholars still debate. Were these merely spiritual symbols, the phantoms of myth? Or were they fragments of a collective memory, a record of something far more tangible? Now, modern science adds a new, intriguing layer. Using LiDAR technology, a way of painting the unseen with light, researchers have scanned inaccessible sections of the canyon. To their astonishment, the scans have revealed vast, anomalous cavities hidden deep within the cliffs. Some of these voids are so geometric, so precise in their forelegence. We are left standing at the precipice of a profound mystery. A forgotten newspaper article, a vanished explorer, the sacred stories of the first peoples, and the cold, hard data of 21st century technology all point toward the same incredible possibility. That somewhere, sealed behind stone and secrecy, a chapter of human history lies waiting. A chapter that someone, for some reason, decided the world was not ready to read. The canyon keeps its secrets well, reminding us that the maps we draw of our past are perhaps more incomplete than we could ever dare to imagine. The formations appear to be of deliberate construction. Could these be the very chambers hinted at in that fateful newspaper article from 1909? Or are they simply the capricious artistry of erosion, geological phantoms waiting to deceive the hopeful gaze of the true believer? The restrictions, however, are anything but phantoms. One of the most notorious of these forbidden zones lies deep within the canyon's heart, near the turbulent confluence of the Colorado and Little Colorado rivers. This is the precise location where whispers and rumors place the sealed cave of Kincaid. Here, vast tracts of land are designated as strictly off-limits. Rangers can appear as if from the stone itself, often warning inquisitive hikers away long before they can even glimpse the boundary line. Some explorers, those who have pushed the limits, insist they have seen the evidence with their own eyes. Entrances not merely collapsed, but methodically bricked over, camouflaged with a modern veneer of colored stone and concrete. One must ask, if nothing of consequence lies inside, why go to such extraordinary lengths to hide it? For the world of mainstream archaeology, the implications are nothing short of explosive. If even a single fragment of an artifact, verifiably Egyptian in style, were to be found here, it would shatter our entire timeline of human history. It would be definitive proof of transoceanic contact thousands of years before Columbus ever set sail. It would mean that civilizations we have long considered isolated, separated by impossible oceans, were in fact connected, trading not just goods, but ideas, technology, and perhaps even their people. The history books would have to be torn up and rewritten from the very first page. But for others, the persistent secrecy points toward a different, though equally profound, explanation. Perhaps the cave holds not a foreign treasure, but a native one. Sacred sites, burial grounds, or ceremonial chambers too vulnerable, too spiritually significant to ever expose to the outside world. A heritage that deserves and demands absolute protection from desecration. Yet even this noble possibility raises a troubling question. Why erase the record of the discovery so completely? Why deny the story outright, rather than simply acknowledging its sacred nature and safeguarding it with transparency? The Grand Canyon itself, of course, remains mute, but it continues to reveal new wonders, as if teasing us with the sheer scale of what it still conceals. In 2023, researchers stumbled upon 313-million-year-old fossilized footprints etched into a slab of canyon rock. They were the tracks of creatures that walked this earth long before the first dinosaurs, hidden in plain sight for eons, unnoticed until now. If a secret that ancient could lie undiscovered for so long, why not an entire underground complex buried just a few hundred feet beyond our reach? Picture it, just for a moment. What might truly wait behind such a sealed doorway? Rows of silent statues looming in the eternal dark? A great hall of mummies, perfectly preserved in the dry desert air, their faces turned toward a forgotten homeland? Tools and artifacts that whisper of impossible journeys across unforgiving oceans, of civilizations we believed were lost forever to time. If this cave exists, it is not merely a discovery. It is a fundamental rewriting of the human story. And this, perhaps, is why the legend endures. Not because it is proven, but because the canyon itself feels uniquely capable of keeping such a secret. Its impossible scale, its deep and shifting shadows, its profound, soul-crushing silence, all of it conspires to remind us that we do not, in fact, know everything. That perhaps the greatest and most transformative chapter of our own history is still sealed away, waiting patiently in stone. The question is not simply whether the government is protecting a myth or hiding a truth. It is whether we are ready for an answer that could change the world. And somewhere within those labyrinthine walls, the canyon keeps its counsel, holding a secret that may, or may not, be there at all. Beneath the sun-scorched earth, beneath the narratives we have carefully constructed, history waits. In the sheer, silent walls of the Grand Canyon, a sealed cave hints at a story authorities seem unwilling to tell. But this is not the only place where the past refuses to conform to the present. Thousands of miles away, under the relentless Egyptian sun, another, heavier puzzle looms. Here, buried in the shifting sands, lie massive granite boxes, some weighing over 100 tons, carved with a precision that borders on the impossible. Who could have fashioned them? And were the known tools of the ancient world truly sufficient for such a feat? Deep in the desert sands of Abydos, a sacred city of the dead located some 350 miles south of Giza's iconic pyramids, stands a monument that time seems to have forgotten, the Osireion. It is a structure shrouded in a profound and unsettling mystery. For decades, its origins, its purpose, and its staggering design have baffled the world's most brilliant minds. It shares no language with the grand temples of ancient Egypt we know so well. The Osireion defies the familiar Pharaonic architectural norms, its stark, megalithic form leading some to a radical conclusion: that it is the product of a much older and perhaps far more advanced civilization. Could this monolithic enigma hold the key to a chapter of human history we were never meant to read? The first clue to its alien nature lies in its very blueprint. Where most temples, Osirion's design is a jarring anomaly. It is built in a unique L-shaped configuration, a choice that immediately severs it from tradition. This fact alone raises a cascade of questions. Was its function entirely different from the religious edifices that would later surround it? Or does its strange geometry reflect the forgotten style of an unknown culture, a people who saw the world and the heavens through a different lens? Adding to this chronological vertigo is the Osirion's relationship with the celebrated temple of Seti I, built during the 19th dynasty. The Osirion sits directly behind and at a much lower elevation than Seti's temple, a silent, brooding elder. Archaeological consensus suggests that the Osirion predates Seti's masterpiece, not by years, but by centuries, perhaps even millennia. It implies that this site, this specific patch of desert, held a sacred gravity long before the reign of Seti. The great pharaoh, it seems, did not build upon a vacant land. He built beside an existing monument, as if paying tribute to a relic from a bygone age. What power did this structure hold? What knowledge was so significant that it commanded the reverence of Egypt's most powerful kings? The sheer scale of the Osirion is what truly humbles the modern observer. The core of the structure is composed of colossal rose granite blocks, monolithic titans, some of which weigh an astonishing 100 tons. These immense stones were hewn from the bedrock of Aswan, a quarry located over 200 miles to the south. This presents a logistical challenge that, by conventional understanding, seems utterly insurmountable. The tools and technology attributed to the Egyptians of that time, copper chisels, stone pounders, wooden sleds, feel hopelessly inadequate for the task. Moving these megaliths across hundreds of miles of unforgiving terrain and then fitting them together with hair's breadth precision is a feat that strains the very limits of belief. The stones are silent, but their presence is a deafening testament to a lost science, a forgotten capability that whispers of a past far grander and far more mysterious than we have ever dared to imagine. In the ancient heart of Egypt, at the sacred site of Abydos, lies a structure that defies the very narrative of history. Behind the celebrated temple of Pharaoh Seti I, a megalithic enigma sinks into the earth, a place known as the Osireion. Its existence poses a question so profound it threatens to rewrite everything we believe about our own past. The first and most staggering mystery is one of pure logistics. The core of the temple is built from colossal granite monoliths, some weighing over 100 tons. These stones were quarried in Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south. The very idea of transporting these immense blocks across vast stretches of unforgiving desert and then positioning them with millimeter precision in a location far from the lifeblood of the Nile is a feat that borders on the impossible. In the absence of any evidence for advanced machinery, for cranes or heavy lift technology, we are left with a gaping void in our understanding. How were these stones, each heavier than a modern battle tank, moved and assembled with a level of accuracy that would challenge engineers even today? The architecture itself speaks of a lost science. The Osireion features a sophisticated double-layered roofing system and flawlessly interlocking wedges, a design of immense strength and ingenuity. This suggests a grasp of engineering principles far beyond the credited capabilities of dynastic Egypt. The choice of material only deepens the conundrum. Granite is a notoriously hard and unforgiving stone. To quarry it, shape it, and polish it to such a perfect finish requires tools and techniques that, According to the accepted historical record, the ancient Egyptians simply had not yet developed during their early dynasties. It is a structure built with a master's hand, using a technology that has left no other trace. But perhaps the most unsettling feature of the Osireion is its history. Richly decorated with carvings, inscriptions, and illustrations detailing the lives of gods and pharaohs, the Osireion is eerily bare. Its massive granite pillars and lintels stand naked, without a single hieroglyph to name its builder or its purpose. Throughout Egypt's long history, temples were living documents, constantly renovated and added to by successive generations. Yet here, nothing. This blankness is an anomaly so complete, it feels intentional, a deliberate refusal to speak. Even its placement is an architectural aberration. The entire structure lies 15 feet below the current ground level, a subterranean layout highly uncharacteristic of Egyptian temple design. This has led some researchers to a radical conclusion. The temple was not built down into the ground, but rather, the ground has risen up around it over countless millennia. The theory suggests a timeline stretching back to an era before the sands of the Egyptian desert had even accumulated to their present depth, an age lost to time. Further evidence for this immense antiquity is etched into the limestone enclosure wall that surrounds the granite core. Here, we find unmistakable patterns of water erosion, deep, undulating vertical grooves. Some geologists argue these marks could only have been carved by prolonged exposure to significant rainfall, pointing to a much wetter climate. This would date the structure not to the time of the pharaohs, but perhaps to the end of the last ice age, when the region experienced a verdant period over 10,000 years ago. If true, the Osireion predates the known Egyptian civilization by millennia. And the mystery continues to descend. Modern seismic technology has revealed that the visible portion of the Osireion is merely the summit of a much larger and more complex structure. The complex extends at least another 50 feet below the current water table. Beneath the murky surface, these seismic tests have indicated the presence of vast, hollow chambers, a submerged lower level that has yet to be explored, its secrets guarded by the water that continually fills its silent halls. It sits there, in the sands of Abydos, a remnant of a world we do not know, a silent testament to a chapter of human history that has been entirely erased. It reminds us that what is written in our books is not the whole story, and that the earth itself is the ultimate library, holding truths far older and stranger than we can possibly imagine. In the ancient necropolis of Abydos, buried deep beneath the desert sands, lies a structure that defies time and explanation. It is not a tomb in the conventional sense, but a subterranean monolith of granite, a place known as the Osireion. For over a century, it has guarded a profound secret, one that flows and replenishes itself in an endless, silent cycle. Despite generations of effort, archaeologists have never seen its floor dry. They have been utterly unable to drain the water, which seems to materialize from the very stones at an alarming, almost supernatural rate. The source of this constant inundation remains one of Egyptology's most baffling enigmas. Some researchers point to the structure's intricate design, a complex network of channels, basins, and what appear to be ancient sluices, as evidence of a deliberate purpose. This was not a flaw, they argue, but a feature. The Osireion was perhaps designed to be a hydraulic machine, a temple built to control and manipulate the flow of water. The sheer precision of these features hints at a staggering understanding of hydraulic engineering, a level of sophistication not typically associated with the pharaohs. While the ancient Egyptians were masters of irrigation, channeling the Nile's bounty for agriculture, the water management system at the Osireion is something else entirely. Something far more advanced. The mysteries only deepen with every attempt to unlock them. The constant replenishment of the water, here in the arid heart of the desert, simply defies all known geological and hydrological principles. Dr. James Westerman, a renowned archaeologist who has dedicated decades of his life to this watery puzzle, has faced this impossibility firsthand. His repeated efforts to pump the structure dry have become a legendary tale of frustration. Even with industrial pumps capable of expelling 500 gallons of water per minute, the level refuses to drop. In fact, it continues to rise, as if the ancient structure is actively fighting back, replenishing itself faster than modern technology can remove it. Westerman's own words capture the sheer absurdity of the situation. "Water," he stated, his voice a mix of awe and exasperation, "is emerging from inside the structure, from the floor itself. This shouldn't be happening, especially not here. Something profoundly strange is going on." In the year 2023, Westerman's team deployed a new generation of technology, hoping to finally peer into the water's soul. Submersible probes descended into the murky green depths, measuring pressure, temperature, conductivity, and, most importantly, its precise chemical composition. The results that came back were astounding. The water held within the Osireion's granite walls possessed a unique chemical profit, the mighty Nile itself. Westerman's research suggested something almost unbelievable. The water was being actively forced up through the floor of the structure, propelled by some unknown force from below. Its chemical and isotopic signatures confirmed it was an orphan. It did not originate from any known local source. The question then became immense. Where is this water coming from? The Osireion's perpetual why. Is there a vast, undiscovered underground reservoir sealed beneath the temple? Or could the water be flowing from a source far deeper, a primordial river that has never before seen the light of day? Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this impossible water is one of its most fundamental properties. After exhaustive hydrologic studies, Westerman made a simple yet profound discovery. The ancient, mysterious water that perpetually fills the Osireion was perfectly drinkable, pure, potable, an endless fountain of life-giving water in one of the driest places on Earth. And so, the Osireion remains, a monument not just to a god of the underworld, but to the enduring power of the unknown. It asks us whether the ancients possessed a knowledge we have since lost, a technology that worked in harmony with nature's deepest forces. Or perhaps it is simply a geological anomaly, a freak of nature that happens to exist in one of the most sacred places on the planet. The truth remains submerged, guarded by a constant, silent flow. A reminder that the deepest secrets are not always buried in sand, but may be held just out of reach in the clear, cool water of an impossible spring. For the engineers and archaeologists working at Abydos, the water that perpetually floods the megalithic chamber of the Osireion is a constant, frustrating obstacle. But for one man, an engineer named Westerman, it became something else entirely. A daily ritual. After careful filtration, he began to drink from this ancient source, and over time, he started to notice something he could only describe as extraordinary. His eyesight, afflicted by nearsightedness for his entire life, began to improve. The world, once a soft-focused blur, sharpened into crisp definition. Eventually, Westermann no longer needed his glasses, a remarkable claim that was later confirmed by a clinical eye test. Could it be possible? Could the water that has flowed through these granite halls since time immemorial possess some form of healing property? Westermann remains convinced, attributing his restored vision to its mysterious qualities. But this personal, almost unbelievable account is not the only anomaly found in the water of the Osireion. There is a deeper, more quantifiable mystery that challenges our understanding of the physical world. Measurements taken from the water table outside the structure show a consistent temperature of 16.9 degrees Celsius. Yet inside the megalithic enclosure, the water is significantly warmer, measuring a steady 23.8 degrees Celsius. This temperature difference, a nearly 7-degree variance, appears to defy the second law of thermodynamics. This fundamental principle of physics dictates that heat cannot spontaneously transfer from a cooler body to a warmer one. Energy flows from hot to cold, a universal rule that governs everything from a cooling cup of coffee to the life cycle of a star. And yet here, in this sunken stone chamber, the rule is seemingly broken. Something within the Osireion, some unknown source of energy, is actively heating the water. What it is and how it functions remains completely unknown. As researchers probe the structure, the true scale of the enigma only deepens. What is visible today, the massive granite pillars and the central island, may only be the antechamber to a far greater complex. The structure extends far beneath the surface, with hidden passages and submerged chambers still entirely unexplored, their secrets guarded by the constant, unceasing flow of water. Could these drowned corridors hold the key? Could they lead to the source of the heat? Or perhaps to artifacts that would finally explain the origins of the Osireion and the identity of its builder? The mystery is compounded when one considers the very design of the place. It is a radical, almost defiant departure from the established norms of Egyptian temple architecture. Across millennia, through the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms, led over centuries by pharaohs dedicated to Amun-Ra, or the Luxor Temple, largely built by Amenhotep III and Ramesses II, all adhered to a predominantly linear and rectangular layout. Their designs were a kind of sacred geometry, towering pylons leading to open courtyards, which in turn led to shadowy hypostyle halls, and finally, the inner sanctuary, all arranged along a single central axis. The Osireion, in stark contrast, possesses a unique L-shaped configuration, a feature found in no other known Egyptian temple of the dynastic period. This is not a stylistic choice. It is a fundamental difference in architectural language. It raises critical questions about its purpose and the cultural mind that conceived it. Was it built for a different set of rituals, perhaps connected to a belief system entirely distinct from the state religion of the pharaohs? The stones themselves whisper of an older, alien wisdom. They leave us with more questions than answers, suggesting this ancient structure is far older and more complex than we ever imagined. It is a place out of time, a riddle written in granite and water, holding what may be a key to understanding a profound, lost chapter of human history. Deep within the sacred precinct of Abydos, a place steeped in the myths of resurrection and eternal life, lies an enigma. It is a structure that defies easy explanation, a monolithic whisper from a time so remote it seems to exist outside the familiar narrative of Pharaonic Egypt. Adjacent to the magnificent temple of Seti I, a masterpiece of the 19th dynasty, is something far older, far stranger. Subterranean, stark, and cyclopean in its construction. The Osireion. Its design is an anomaly, a severe and powerful statement that shares almost nothing with the intricate hieroglyphs and vibrant reliefs of the well-documented Egyptian pantheon that surround it. The construction employs colossal rose granite blocks, some weighing an estimated 100 tons. These are not local stones. They were hewn from the bedrock of Aswan, a quarry located over 200 miles to the south. While the ancient Egyptians of the Old Kingdom were undeniably master engineers, the builders of the Giza pyramids, the challenge presented here, is of a different order entirely. The Nile, that great artery of civilization, was the highway of ancient Egypt, facilitating the transport of unimaginable weight. But the Osirion's location, relatively far from the river's main channel, transforms a difficult task into a formidable, almost impossible logistical puzzle. The Old Kingdom builders, for all their genius, worked primarily with limestone, a softer, more forgiving material. They certainly used granite for crucial elements, for sarcophagi and portcullises meant to last for eternity, but the sheer scale of its use in the Osireion is unprecedented for the period to which it is often assigned. Granite is an exceptionally hard, igneous rock. To shape and manipulate it with the precision found here, with joints so fine a blade cannot pass between them, requires specialized tools and techniques. The Egyptians of the dynastic periods possessed copper and later bronze. Yet the notion of working such vast granite monoliths with these softer metals remains a subject of intense and often contentious debate. The level of craftsmanship on display seems to point toward a technology, a mastery over stone that feels profoundly out of place. Archaeological evidence offers a clue, but one that only deepens the mystery. Stratigraphic analysis, the careful study of rock and soil layers, along with the relative positioning of the structures, indicates that the Osireion predates Seti's glorious temple, not by years, but potentially by centuries, if not millennia. His own legacy adjacent to this ancient hallowed ground, seeking to associate his reign with its primordial sanctity. It was a common practice throughout Egyptian history to build upon or near older sacred sites, drawing upon the perceived power of predecessors and establishing a continuity of divine favor. Abydos itself was the heart of the cult of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, from the very dawn of Egyptian history. The earliest dynastic rulers chose this sacred soil for their tombs, cementing its importance for all time. The Osireion, then, sits at the epicenter of this spiritual landscape, a silent monument that was already an ancient relic when the great pharaohs of the New Kingdom walked the earth. It forces us to ask, who were its builders? What knowledge did they possess? It stands as a testament not to what we know of our past, but to how much may have been forgotten, a stone library whose language we have yet to decipher. In the ancient sacred sands of Abydos, a place steeped in the lore of gods and the genesis of pharaohs, lies a structure that defies nearly every convention of Egyptian civilization. The Osireion. Hewn from monolithic blocks of red granite, its very existence poses a silent, profound question to history. Its most striking and perplexing feature is an almost complete, almost defiant absence of the sacred art that defined a kingdom. There are no Egyptian hieroglyphs, no intricate carvings, no decorative artwork. This void stands in stark, unsettling contrast to the legacy of the Nile Valley. From the grandest temples to the most intimate tombs, Egyptian stone was a canvas, a testament covered in inscriptions, detailing religious rites, royal triumphs, and the intricate tapestry of their worldview. Even when later pharaohs restored older monuments, they almost invariably added their own cartouches, their own stories, creating a rich palimpsest of dynastic narrative. But the walls of the Osireion remain bare. They offer no textual clues to their builders, their purpose, or the deities to whom this colossal effort was dedicated. This silence is a profound anomaly, an architectural muteness unheard of, even in the earliest dynastic period. The mystery deepens when one considers its placement. The Osireion's entire layout is a significant deviation from the architectural canon. The structure does not reach for the sky, it descends into the earth. Its floor lies approximately 15 feet below the current ground level, a subterranean world of stone and shadow. This has led some researchers to a staggering proposition, that the Osireion is considerably older than the adjacent temple of Seti I, that its depth is not a feature of design, but a consequence of age, a testament to the slow, inexorable accumulation of sand and sediment over millennia. This hypothesis points not to the age of pharaohs, but to a far earlier, perhaps pre-dynastic era. And there is evidence etched into the very stone that supports this radical timeline. On the limestone of the enclosure wall surrounding the granite core, there are patterns of water erosion. These are not the sharp, abrasive marks left by wind and sand. Instead, they are deep, vertical fissures with soft, rounded edges, the unmistakable signature of prolonged exposure to heavy, flowing climate that no longer exists in this part of the world. A climate that existed in the Sahara region at the end of the last ice age, specifically during and after the Younger Dryas period, between 10,900 and 9,700 BCE. This timeline would place the Osireion's construction well before the rise of dynastic Egypt, aligning it with a period of immense global climate change and linking it to a lost epoch of human history. Perhaps the most baffling aspect of the Osireion, the one that ties its ancient past to the present, is the persistent presence of water. The structure is perpetually flooded, its monolithic pillars rising from a still, dark pool that reflects a sky it hasn't seen for thousands of years. Modern seismic surveys and ground-penetrating radar have revealed that this visible, flooded portion is merely the uppermost level of a much larger, multi-layered complex. The true structure extends at least another 50 feet into the waterlogged earth below. These scans have detected subsurface chambers, entire halls submerged and hidden from view, but they remain almost completely unexplored, guarded by the constant ingress of the water table. The water that may have carved its outer walls in a forgotten green Sahara now fills its inner chambers, protecting its deepest secrets. The Osireion is more than an architectural riddle. It is a monument to an amnesia in our collective story. It suggests that beneath the foundations of what we call civilization, there may lie the work of another, older world, whose voice was not written in hieroglyphs, but in the silent, enduring language of stone. Deep beneath the desert sands of Abydos, an ancient structure holds a secret, not of stone, but of water. Here, in the megalithic chambers of the Osireion, an unyielding influx of water fills the lower levels, its source a complete and baffling mystery. Despite repeated, exhaustive efforts to conquer it, despite powerful pumps capable of displacing hundreds of gallons per minute, the water simply returns. It replenishes itself at an astonishing rate, as if the very desert is bleeding into this sacred space. Archaeologist James Westerman, after years of failed attempts to drain the site, was forced to a staggering conclusion. The water was not seeping in from without, but originating from within the structure itself, a phenomenon that defies all conventional hydrology. Chemical and isotopic analysis only deepens the enigma. The water possesses a unique composition, a liquid fingerprint distinct from any known well, aquifer, or even the Great Nile River itself. It beharmal activity here to explain it. Then there is the heat. The water inside the Osireion maintains a constant temperature of 23.8 degrees Celsius, while the groundwater just outside measures a cooler 16.9 degrees. This persistent temperature differential appears to violate the second law of thermodynamics, implying the existence of an unknown internal heat source. It is a puzzle that challenges not just our understanding of history, but of physics itself. What force hidden within these ancient stones could generate such impossible warmth? The mystery is a tapestry of contradictions, a place where our most fundamental laws seem to bend, leaving us to question not only who built this monument, but the very nature of the world they inhabited.